Hey everyone, welcome back to the Big Roofs podcast. Today we're diving into something every business owner should care about: personal branding and how to actually use storytelling to grow your business. So if you've been thinking about hitting record, but don't know where to start, or if you're ready to scale your roofing company, you're in the right place. John Cater is my friend. He built this podcast studio. He is our guest today and has tons of very helpful and actually practical ways to use video to grow your business with consistency. Let's get into it. If you're watching this, you see that both of us have really high quality audio and video. And what I noticed, if you are a home service contractor, is that the first video that we ever posted, where it was just me, we do a lot of like they ask you answer kind of scripting to help people when we run social media stuff. But we didn't change any of that part. None of the delivery, none of the scripting that we do, none of what I did was different. But we had I think it was a 20x view count on the first couple videos that we had. We're getting a few hundred, and then we would get like 4,000 views. And it has to be attributed to the audio and video. So if you're thinking about shooting content, maybe I just think consumers expect a high quality now. We can talk about that a lot more, but I just think
I got some theories behind it too that that go a little bit past just like gear talk, and we can dive into that a bit more.
Let's dive into it right now. Might as well.
Dive into it right now. So the biggest reason why quality has always mattered isn't necessarily because of how you look on camera. It's because of how palatable your content is to the audience. And so your whole goal as a creator is communication. It's not like the trends. It's not like flashy curiosity hooks and stuff like that. Your goal ultimately at the end of the day, while those things contribute to it, your goal at the end of the day is communication. And so the more barriers you put between you and your audience for them to be able to digest content, you literally have 1 to 2 seconds before somebody moves past. And if your audio is trash, like honestly, audio will, even if you have a great video and your audio is like god awful to like listen to, that'll be like a qualifier.
Yeah.
Because I almost hate bad audio more than I do bad video. I'll watch like a bad video with great audio.
Yep.
And so the whole goal behind increasing your quality isn't necessarily the gear that you look at, but the communication that you close between what you're trying to say and what your audience is trying to digest. And the less you have to think about that, the better. Right. And so that's why we started like, number one, I mean, there's a plethora of reasons why we started doing studio builds, but the reason why is because once you get the gear out of the way, then we can just talk about the reality of what you need to work on, which is communication, right? And delivering things that people can understand in a very short window when you only have 1 to 2 seconds to be able to capture somebody, understanding what they're looking for and how they're looking for it. Once you get all the crap out of the way, then we can talk about an actual communication process.
Yep. I love that. So what I hear and what I see a lot are, I'm going to say this, the same thing you just said, but it may be a different way. There's two things I see. The first one is the mental hurdles. I always talk about that with sales process, but like the mental hurdles may be bad audio, bad video. The background is weird. We've noticed that we tracked a lot of our content, and the background really does matter a lot, and the environment that you're filming in, obviously lighting, those things. So you're removing the mental hurdles. But the second part of that is intrigue. And in those first 3 seconds, one thing that's intriguing now, because most people don't have a full setup like this, is that this video looks good. That's the first intrigue. Then the audio, they hear the audio and it sounds good. And so then that in and of itself, before I even actually say anything of value, is they're kind of hooked because the audio and the video is there. And they're not like, cringe, this sounds bad, this looks bad. Another guy on a roof doing a selfie video. Not that that's necessarily bad, but removing the hurdles and having some sort of intrigue to get people. Like people talk about hooks, but like it's intriguing to see something that looks really nice. That in a world where everything else is just kind of like phoned in.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that my coach, Coach Larry Wade, who's also the coach for Jake Paul, the strength and conditioning coach, one of the biggest things that he says, and I'll probably get it tattooed on me at some point in time, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Yep.
And so if you are looking for professional content and you are delivering like things at a higher level, you want those things to match, because it's almost a pre-qualifier, like you're saying, a pre-qualifier that like, oh, this person's about to give good information.
Yep.
Right? Because people don't take time most times to dial in their videos, to dial in their communication, but then even more so to dial in their type of setup to match, like, because you can be a great communicator. You know, one of the best communicators that I've ever seen and follow is Vin. He's Ask Vin.
I was gonna say like that's one of my favorite people. I actually have it on my. I have the stage training that I've been going through. A lot of his stuff is really really helpful.
Yeah, and like how many bad videos do you see of him?
I mean, we don't see him anymore. He talks about the ones that he used to be bad at, but I don't believe him. He's so stinking good. Like I get it.
Yeah,
People improve.
And that's because he needed to match the level of
Yep.
communication. Like he's literally teaching communication. Can you imagine if you taught communication and everything else you did was trash?
Yep.
Right? It would be an instant disqualifier. And so that's kind of a hyper example of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And there'll be people that disagree with that, but and there'll be outliers. But I think that, for the broad spectrum, like that's like a pretty good golden standard to add to your belt.
I think people in the contracting space are very, I mean, it takes a lot of grit, a lot of hard work, a lot of like perseverance that I had to go through for 10 to 15 years. So I think that statement of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything is always a challenge for everyone because we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, what I've seen over doing coaching and myself and in building ProLine, the weaknesses that we have as contractors, the type of brains that we have is either sales or production or analytics. It's not so much the creative side. Mm-hmm. And being in front of camera is very daunting. So I just think you have to just say, I don't care if I'm bad at it or I don't like it. You have to own that thing, whether it's you, the owner, or you are training someone who is going to be in your organization that's going to represent you, your brand, your personal brand, your brand as a company. You've really specifically, John, you've inspired me to realize that I think because AI and other technologies coming to the forefront of all industry, that the creative side of humans is going to be the most important thing, because there is a human element that maybe AI will reach one day, but I think at least for several more years, we have this ability to do the one thing. It's the way you do everything, and do it. If you're a great sales rep, if you're a great installer, if you're a great business owner, you got to do the content the same way and really push forward to it. I just see over and over again, people are like, they even have the money to have the studio, to pay for the studio, but then they don't execute consistently in an excellent way to communicate their brand and their personal brand. Like you gotta really push forward. I think that's the key. That's the magic sauce moving forward is actually doing this and then communicating how you can help, because people want to help people. You want to help people, whatever service you do, whatever product you sell. This is the way to do it now. This is the way that people are consuming all that information.
And I wanna kind of double tap on something that you said. People look at their strengths and they look at their weaknesses, and the reality is most people think that you can't, that you can only do your strengths really well. But the reality is that you can actually do your weaknesses really well too. The problem is that most people are too afraid to step into their weaknesses and do their weaknesses as well as their strengths to highlight that. But the reality is the secret, and the biggest secret to personal brand is leaning into your weaknesses and doing them at the expert level as your strengths, right? And so I think the more time you spend in your weaknesses, identifying them, identifying the things that you're learning, the things that you're going through, not always being the expert, but being the student, I think is also another way that you can practice your weaknesses to get them at that same level of the way I do one thing is the way I do everything. And that even includes my weaknesses.
Yep.
Because a lot of times we try to shy away from the weaknesses because we think that's a disqualifier, but it's actually probably the most qualifying thing that you could ever have about yourself. You know, I think a lot of times we spend a majority of our time behind a mask that we've learned, whether it's a worldview or a perception that we have about ourselves or about how other people view us. And we allow that to be the strongest barrier that stops us from just climbing over the wall and like getting into our weaknesses. Right. And we'll talk a little bit about some things between the shadow self and like perceptions and how to close that gap. But there's ways that you can do it. And those ways are ultimately what's going to add gasoline to your personal brand, especially when we're talking about communication, because if you're constantly communicating the perfect person, chances are you aren't relatable. And so I think there's a way to add in that standard of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything to your weaknesses. And that's ultimately the thing that separates you from other people, but at the same time connects you. Right. It's like a very contradicting statement, but it's shown time and time and time again that when people show their weaknesses and when people share their weaknesses and share their stories and share the things that they're struggling with, the things that they're going through, that is an expert form of communication that doesn't feel so expert at the time, but it's actually the biggest thing that qualifies you.
Here's how roofers make it home for dinner every single night without losing a single sale, even when they're one-man shows. Automate your communication with ProLine, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs. Your weekends will smell more like sunscreen and backyard barbecues than that crappy gas station coffee. And all you got to do is ask these roofers.
Where we had about 200% growth, and I attribute that to incorporating ProLine.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
It's been absolutely insane how quickly we were able to grow.
Now, ProLine's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday. Now, back to the show.
You're definitely helping me realize that in myself, because in literally last year, every Thursday, we would film for 3 hours. We had a strategy. It's a different kind of communication. We're trying to build content, but it was like nothing related to roofing. It was like a roofing adjacent stuff. It's like we're telling dad jokes, and it was like a roof theme, or it was one of my friends. She's a really good actor, and she would like, I'm a terrible actor. I was talking about doing my bad thing excellently. That's a hack, is find somebody who's really good at it and then just emulate them or work with them very closely so that you can be excellent at that thing. So I hate acting. I'm not good at it. I'm really not great on camera in that scenario. Anyway, so we would do things like painting a picture of what it's like whenever the husband and the wife don't communicate and the roofer's coming over, and it was very funny. It was comedy, but we had massive views on those videos. And we were not, yes, we did standing on the roof. Let's talk about this material. Let's talk about this. We did all those standard things you need to do to show that you're an expert. Because if people are going to stay on your playlist or go on your social media platform, then they're going to want to know that you can actually provide your service excellently. Yeah. But like the dad jokes and doing the Mike and Jenny skits, 100x we had some of our TikTok videos hit well over 100,000 views, and people would literally see our brand logos on our shirts and be like, I saw your video, because we'd hashtag Savannah, hashtag all these things that we're around. And that's an example of like, it takes consistency. You have to think outside the box. You build your personal brand on something that's humanized, but also excellent at what you do. And it produced results. Real sales were produced from those videos. So I know that you work in a lot of industries, but for home service contractors, you got to be creative. You got to work with people who are creative. And I'm eventually going to have Sam, who runs Sam PR, who I've been working with for a long time, on why it's important to work with somebody like that. And I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I just think that it's important to know that when we talk about big concepts of like communication and branding and all these things, I think a lot of contractors go to their other side of the brain and they're thinking, all right, well, what do I do? What's the next thing? I filmed every single Thursday. We blocked it off on our calendar from either 8:30 to 11:30. Yeah, 8:30 to 11:30 every single Thursday. We filmed. We had a strategy. We knew we were going to get X amount of videos. We wanted to make sure that these videos actually got deployed. We had a way to schedule those videos. I think people don't really hear that a lot. They don't hear the technical, like the nuts and bolts of it after. Oh, I'm filming, so great. Now I just post it to stories. And that's a way, but there's also better strategies that can make it actually, make sales, build your brand another way. Sorry, I just want to kind of on a tangent on that.
So before we go into the strategies, one of the main strategies that I kind of want to break down is the one that you gave as an example. So you're doing all these like fun videos that are really relatable, and they're not really like, they're roofing adjacent, but they're not really roofing, right?
Yep.
That you're just talking about. I wanna give a perspective shift to anybody that's watching this currently. If you're currently doing content and all it is talking about your product or roofing material and whatever it is, whether it's SaaS, roofing, different forms of tech, baking, whatever it is, right? In roofing, because it's a high ticket item, because we're specifically talking to roofers here, a customer may need a roof. Let's just hopefully say that they need a roof like once every 3 years, 5 years, maybe.
It's a long sales cycle. If you're in a storm market, it's about 7 to 9 years.
So let's break that down and let's say like, okay, maybe it's a person needs a roof every 7 to 9 years. They are not looking for their immediate need when they don't need it. And so what do you have to do? You have to diversify, and you have to dive into your personal brand like you were doing on that roof, talking about things that are multifaceted to you in the human element of like who you are and who you're not, and doing these forms of content and these forms of storytelling, not talking about roofing, because like the chances are they're not going to consume constant roofing content for 7 years and then be like, oh yes, I finally need it. And so what you have to do is you have to diversify your content, which means by adding and injecting forms of yourself into your content every single day. And that's why I believe more in personal brand than I do company brands, because the chances are is that I relate to John. I relate to totally normal John because he experiences things that are not totally normal. And there's an underlying tone of gratitude within that. And I actually align more with that person than I do the product that you're going to sell me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to constantly follow you because I love your content. I love what you're about. You're always with your family. You're riding dolphins. You're, you're doing things that lead to a very grateful life. And you're showcasing those things. And I think for any contractor that's watching, you have to do some real digging into who you are to be able to showcase that content. And then you can do trends. I like formats more than I do trends. But I would say if you're a contractor watching, the single-handed best marketing strategy that you can do is actually define who you are and to showcase that daily. Define the things that are important to you, the things that you stand against, create polarizing opinions based around certain topical content, and be a part of the conversation more than just roofing. Because the chances are is that people are going to align themselves with you and they will buy your product at that 7-year mark, right? When they finally need it, because you built up so much trust with them. And there's a principle that I want you to think about that I was talking with Christo recently on, I think it was like last week or something like that. I was like, Chris, why are you going to all these events? And he's like, well, there's a theory. There's a principle called the 7-11-4 rule. And so people have to consume 7 hours of you in 11 different places. So if you think of 11 different places, that could be your door hangers, that could be your door knockers, that could be your Facebook ad, that could be your organic strategy, that can be your Instagram, that could be your TikTok, that could be your YouTube, your YouTube will also contribute to the 7 hours. That can be your LinkedIn posts, that can be your stories, that can be your Snapchat, if you're a risky boy on Snapchat. And then that can be last but not least, just like seeing your truck wraps. And so I've went through 11 different points of contact where you've seen my brand, you spent 7 hours with me, and then 4 different locations. So seeing you in 4 different locations, whether that's at a networking event, community service, the baseball games, or like the football games, or the sports activities within the community. And then that, just decide where you normally are to fit in that content. And so that's the 7-11-4 rule that I want you guys to think about. And, it's great to film, but think of filming in regards to that 7-11-4.
Yeah.
Right. Did we hit all these topics and all these points? And it can be very difficult if you're only thinking about educational content to really stack up the they ask you answer without sounding repetitive, which we can dive into a bit later. But anyway, there are strategies to the madness. It doesn't have to be just a game of like, just get on camera and film 24/7. Now you got all this footage, which we just did a boiler room conversation where we were talking about, hey, we've filmed all this stuff, we've done all these things, and people think that just one idea is like the idea, and like that's it, that's the video. Okay, we finished that video. Now we have to completely think of a completely separate thing to do. But the reality is the one idea is actually, it could be like 4 or 5 separate different ways of packaging.
Yep.
So you could do talking head, you could do a podcast with the same idea, talking about the same exact content. You could do B-roll. So now you have all this footage. So you do B-roll with text on the screen, no words, just you working with an observation or a story that you're telling. You can do a selfie video of it. You can do a carousel post. And so now that one idea gets transformed into 4, and that's what really prevents burnout. Because number 1, you're able to get more longevity out of your content. And then number 2 is people also do not consume content the same way. John, do you read? Do you read?
If I read, I have to audible at the same time. It's the only way I can do it.
It's the only way you can do it.
Yep.
I can't read. I can read, but like I can't read and retain information.
Same.
So I listen to audiobooks, dude. Like I even like people that send me audiobooks and stuff, or people that send me books. I'm like, dude, where's the audiobook to this? I'll pay for it or whatever it is. Like, please, dear God, get this into something that I can listen to.
Yep.
And so we have to think the same way that we consume content. other people consume it differently as well. And so we're actually doing a disservice to people if we're only putting out one form of the same idea.
Yep. I like that. That's actually really helpful. I wish that we had talked last year because we were doing, so going back to Mike and Jenny, here's the concept. There's anxiety around scheduling someone to come to your house. And usually one spouse does not communicate to another spouse. And so they're fighting. And the joke was like, you didn't check the Google Calendar. And like the very first day I was acting with Emily, I was yelling at this stranger and we were just yelling at each other like we're a married couple. You have this one concept. This is one format. Kind of going back to what you're saying, I wish we had done multiple formats of the same concept, but what we did is we extended out that one concept to multiple videos, and it was very, very effective.
Like a series.
It was like a series.
Yep.
But it really, you can really extend out one idea, and we had at least 6 to 8 videos when most people would just film the one, be done, and then like, oh, now I got to do something else. Well, we filmed out 6 to 8 different versions of a concept about that. And then we had another like series with Mike and Jenny about the next part of it. Like there's a guy on my roof. Like it was the huge thing. So I really actually love the fact that you said like we're doing a disservice by not doing multiple formats of the same idea, but also really extend out the one format. If you know you're good at that, this is getting back to just being practical. If you're like, I can't, this is too much in the beginning of hearing all this, I got to do all these different formats. You do need to get to that point. But in the beginning, don't just film a 90-second video or a 3-minute video. Like, we're done. No, it's just, you need more. You need to take people through the actual storytelling process of, it was visceral because people can feel that anxiety whenever you're understanding, like if you've been in the home services, you know what's happening. If you're actually listening to your customers, you know they're pissed because their husband didn't tell them that the guy's coming over and he's walking up the steps and now he's knocking on the door and now there's the guy on the roof and like there's all these things you can just open up. That kind of storytelling, every home service company needs to make those videos. And
it's not about them at all.
No.
Right? It's about taking yourself out of your shoes and putting yourself into the shoes of your audience member.
Yes.
And then creating content around that because then you're closing that gap of communication by relatability.
The number of comments that we had on those types of videos was crazy because everyone could relate to it. They would tell a story in the comments of like when that happened or when the contractor showed up without knocking on the door. Like there's so many elements that we all know that happen. Dogs come, they bite you, or like what? There's so many stories that we all have. People come out with guns because they don't realize that they're supposed to tell their spouse that somebody's showing up to the door. That's happened too. Did
you say, can we run this back?
Yeah. I was like, whoa. So just that's what it is. I think the reason I'm explaining it like this is because that was me a few years ago. It's like, what do I do? What's next? That is an example of what we did that was really effective, is figure out what your story is. And what you said, John, is exactly true. We looked at these videos through the eyes of our ideal customers. We did not look about like, oh, we're so good at roofing. Here's our badges. Here's how to contact us. It was all about the customer. It was all about the dad jokes are the same way. We just thought that our ideal customer would think those corny jokes would be funny, and they were. And they got tons of views, and they were local. We could track where they were coming from, so they were our ideal customers in our ideal markets too. So just another format that we did with the dad jokes.
If you're in, I just want to break the fourth wall here, which is if you are in this current position to where you're trying to displace yourself and like take yourself out of your shoes, but you have all these thoughts of like, oh, this is how I should do video. I want to tell you right now, like, you're not wrong. There was a point in time when that was easy, when that was acceptable. And it's okay that you have this perception of what you need to do, but you have to actually realize that perceptions change and the way that things are consumed changes. And so now, to where back in the day, if you got on camera and you said, "Hi, my name is John, and I'm with johnroofing.com," or whatever it was, like, it would work. And because there wasn't as saturation, like contractors, you're not just competing with other contractors in your space. You're competing with the person that is doing like yarn videos. You're competing with the person that is doing dog videos. You're competing with the person that is doing a day in the life videos. You're competing with the person that is, doing like rocket science breakdowns. You're competing with all these different sectors.
Yep.
You are no longer competing with the contractor. You are competing for attention on the space. And so when you look at those dated tactics, I actually want to, do you remember, I want to go back here. Do you remember having CD players in your pocket?
Yep. The no skip, how much memory. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I used to walk around in high school with like a big, like, circular CD thing in my pocket, and these like foam headphones that would like blow out my ears. And like, that was the way that I listened to music. How many CDs do you buy now? Probably
Zero.
none. Probably
Zero.
none. You have your phone, you have Spotify, you have your Apple Buds. And so technology and the way that you consume content has changed, specifically in music. And so if that has happened to you and you're a viewer and you remember literally listening to like an 8-track or listening to like your radio back in the day, and now you watch TV, and maybe you don't even watch TV anymore. I don't even watch TV anymore. All I got is my Roku with Netflix and whatever apps and channels that I want, because I don't want to pay, $1,000 for 200 channels on my local TV. Which that's an astronomical price. But the point is that media changes and the way that we consume content changes. And then even what we're talking about right now, it will not be evergreen, but what will be evergreen is storytelling.
Yep.
Because storytelling has existed since like way past Bible times, since the dawn of like creation. Storytelling has existed with cavemen writing on the walls of like what's happening. And like, there's this saber tooth that's about to eat you if you go down this way. So like they draw an arrow and they go X.
Don't go this way.
Yeah. Don't go this way. Did that last week. Wasn't a great experience.
Buddy died.
Yeah, buddy died. Yeah. There's 3 people and then there's one that's X.
Skull. Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
but I will hold on, Roy, real quick. Going back to the ideal customer, I keep talking about this so much, and I like sometimes I get deer in the headlights, but like it's not changed. This part, the storytelling doesn't change, but who you're telling it to, you have to understand who that person is. You really, I know we talk about ideal customer profile all the time, avatar, whatever you want to call it. The way that you consume content may be different. If your ideal customer can still watches CNN or Fox News, you may need to want to like cater to that person, who that is, because I made the mistake lots of times where I'd be like, this is what I do, so this is what they should do. But that I wasn't my own ideal customer.
Yeah.
So when I was going to these events the past few weeks, I would ask these contractors who the ideal customer was. I was like, wow, that's way different than mine. Like 31-year-old mother of 2 that works for Lockheed Martin in Denver. Like that is way different than my ideal customer was like 62 years old, male, nearing retirement age, high income earner, has a pension.
Yeah.
Like very different. So you're totally right. Tell the story to that person though. Like if you're telling it to all the Lockheed Martin people and you live in my area, it's not going to work. They're just not going to consume it the same way. They're not going to understand it. Like this is one reason why we did the dad jokes in our market, because that's who laughs at those dad jokes, is those customers. Anyway, that just say
if I'm in Detroit, I'm not talking about eating boiled peanuts.
you're not.
I'm
That's
not.
very funny.
And so no, so the reality is like John might have his ideal customer that like loves boiled peanuts, like, and picks them up off the side of the road. And I didn't even know that existed. And so you're right. Like those ideal avatars change. I think, looking at some tech, like one of your partners, like Roofle, is a good innovator of looking at their ideal customer, looking at the contractor's ideal customer.
Yes.
Because what happens is millennials are more comfortable with technology than face-to-face stuff.
Yep.
And so they'll go through technology and they will trust. I mean, the amount of people that trust AI and ChatGPT with their life story,
it's crazy.
Is insane. And then there's an ideal customer that would never trust technology. And so really diving in and understanding how your audience is reacting and responding to things. I think ProLine does it very well too. And you guys are focused on like the integration of AI, because your ideal customer there, it's a hot button topic to where the new CD player to iPhone is being transformed, and now ProLine is transforming the same way as that medium did as well.
And to your point too, because of my influence in the roofing space, and I always cared about my customer as the homeowner. We sell to contractors, but we are also thinking about how that contractor communicates to their customer. And that's really what makes it powerful, is because we're actually thinking about our customer's customer, just like what you just said about Roofle's thinking about their customer's customer as well. Like it's very important that you understand the result matters at the final customer. Like if you're making that final customer happy and they're converting to your customer, then as a software customer, then you're winning. But if you don't think about that multi-layered part of it, it is very difficult. And
if you're a marketer on this, currently listening to this, I want to observe like an unfair advantage that ProLine has compared to anyone else, is that they have John. And the fact is that John used to be a contractor, and so there's nobody else that can relate more to that contractor than somebody who used to be in it. And so whether you're a marketer or you're a contractor that's currently watching this, having people that are on your team that can directly empathize, which hits on one of our 3 points within the trust triangle, can help you substantially grow as a business. Right? If you're a contractor and you have people on your organization that are homeowners, that like those are the best people to get kind of information or to deliver information or to innovate your product, because like they can empathize and understand, versus a person that's like renting and is like, I'll just like let the landlord take care of it.
it's true.
So I just wanted to clarify, one of the things that I really love about ProLine is the fact that the people integration and the leadership team was also contractors.
Yep. The second part of that what makes this really special for how we serve our customers is that there are other softwares out there that were like built by contractors for contractors. They're challenged though, because they can't actually execute what that empathetic approach is as far as developing the product. So contractors get frustrated with the software because the thing's not happening. The features are not being built. The tools are not being built. And I'm really thankful that we're not huge PE-backed company that has to answer to a board that tells us how to spend our money and spend our time and spend our effort. We're really able to, we just want to help the contractors. We want to help the contractors, help the homeowners. And it's really easy to say, there's a lot of people out there that are like that. But if you can't execute on those things in a timely manner, I've waited a long time for lots of features for other softwares. That's the most important thing, because we need it now. We're trying to sell roofs. We're trying to help homeowners. So appreciate the shout out, but it's those two parts that matter. That's what you got to have, the empathy, but you also have the execution as well.
So I'll actually elaborate a little bit more on the trust triangle because you brought up the execution, which there was a Harvard study that happened with how do we build trust within a customer? And there's three key elements that you need to be able to build trust. John mentioned one of them, which is being able to execute. Empathy is another. And then the top one is authenticity. And so there's this triangle that has to be formed within every piece of content that you create, or even any sort of trust that you're building with someone. It doesn't even necessarily have to be content. It's even how you show up in a room, right? If you are authentic, like you're your true self, you're not trying to just have an agenda, right? Of like selling things, right? And so you're showing up as yourself, you're curious, right? You are who you are. You're not this guru expert. You're a student of life and your product. Number one, the authenticity part. Empathy, understanding your audience. And then logic, which is taking them from where they're at to where they want to be with a crystal clear path. And so that implementation process that you're talking about, like that hits on the logic part. You're able to empathize and you're showing up in the spaces that you are with who you are. And so in the trust triangle, like this isn't even my study. So this is like a Harvard study, like Ivy League school is talking about how do we build trust. And so forget everything that I say. If somebody, an organization that's focusing on trust and identifying those three key pillars, as many times as I talk about authenticity, there are organizations that talk about it. And so that's another simple strategy that you can use to audit what you're doing, not just in the content that you're creating, but how you're showing up in spaces and building your product.
It's true. You need these things. One thing that we talked about, building, just real quick. When you built our studio, I don't think we hit this when we said this when we hit record. You showed up at my house on Wednesday, I think. I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we built our studio. You had this is very funny. You had I knew this is I knew because I've seen your content. I was like, you had the rental car, but you had the freaking pole sticking up out the window with the 360 camera and coming into the driveway. And it was like lunchtime. And we're like, Elizabeth and I were there. The kids were at school. And we're like, we're just going to go to lunch. You want to go to lunch? And you're like, it was very funny. I still think about this a lot. Where you're like, we're going to give them a golf cart and drive. We're going to drive. You got so excited about that part. I was like, this is what we do. This is a totally normal thing that we do. That's where the totally normal thing came from. But I'm touching on that because that was the beginning of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We saw dolphins on Saturday morning. And then we still worked pretty late, like till 9 or 10 at night on Saturday to finish the podcast studio. That's great. I want people to know that. On record, I want people to know that it's an extensive process to make it happen. But what you're talking about, we've been talking about for the past 30, 40 minutes is the value that you bring to understand and the student that you are of storytelling, personal branding, and understanding that it's so much more. I know we've been touching on this a lot, but if you're paying attention, you're still here, and it's 43 minutes in. You need to understand that it's so much more than the equipment. You have to become a student of how, and you said certain things are evergreen. Storytelling is evergreen. Your ideal customer is probably going to be similar for a long, long time. Those are two things, but everything else you need to continually improve. I made so many mistakes early on that I could have learned and then caught up to date with the current customer base. So it's really important. This is not something that you can just throw money at. I know we say this a lot. You can't just throw money at it and it's going to work. It's probably not going to work. It may work for a minute and then it's going to change. Real quick, Google LSA. I was one of the first people on local service ads, and it was super easy. My leads cost like $20, and I would go sell half of them. And then everybody else got on the platform. And then the next thing, and then now it's ChatGPT, and now it's Gemini. They just freaking launched. I don't even know. I'm not a good student of that.
Yeah, it's like Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, vidIQ. We're in an AI boom.
Yep. continue to learn to storytell. Like that's the biggest thing, is that I think the people need to hear what we're saying, is that you can have great cameras and lighting and mics and all this stuff. You need to have a schedule of what you're going to do and take time out of every single week, if not multiple times a week. It's my opinion that you should batch it all, have a team. If it's just you, film it all, and then take time the same day to schedule it all. You have a team, great, makes it easier. On top of that, go ahead.
I'll actually talk about these. There's a couple different theories when it comes to looking at batching versus just documenting like as you go. So
I want to hear this. Yeah, this is important. I want to hear this.
So Brendan Kane is somebody whose content I started really diving into, and he changed my perspective on a lot of different things, because I used to batch a shit ton of content.
Yep.
I don't know if you can bleep that out, but whatever. So he was talking about how in the process of batching, it's important to not batch too much.
Okay, so this is my first question. I knew you were going to go there. What if you're a home service contractor, or you're just a business owner in general? What is too much in your opinion?
Too much is like 15 to 30 videos.
Okay.
So what I would actually do is, okay, let me comb through his theory a bit. So this is a guy that's focused on making people go viral. Like that's his whole organization. Hook Point, like Guide to Going Viral, that's his thing, right? And looking at these case studies and these formats, and this is another reason why I say trends are not the way for longevity, and formats are. And so when you are batching and you're doing a series of maybe, let's just say like 10 to 15 videos, it's almost better to do that and figure out a winning formula that is constantly showing up in people's feed than it is to do like the 30 videos. And the reason why is this. Is because if you batch 30, 60 videos, and a lot of corporations used to do this.
Yep.
They would batch like 60 videos, and then at the end of their quarter, they would go, how did this do? Right? And they were like, we got like 40% retention. Great job, everybody. But the reality is they were creating content, and it's almost like baking a cake. Like if you were to bake 30 cakes, right? And you have a bad recipe, and you bake 30 cakes out of this bad recipe, you finish them, and you're like, oh my God, I put too much baking soda in this, or like baking powder, whatever you're using to make this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's too much sugar in this. Now you have 30 cakes with the wrong recipe. And so at the end of it, you're like, this content thing isn't working. But the reality is if you just focus on like smaller case studies and focus on those short series and trying to discover like these formats that work for you, you could have less risk at the end of all your efforts.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to, one, shorten your amount of content to be able to find winning formulas. You know, we do this in the Creators Den a lot of times with creators, and we observe things that work online. We observe how they're delivered, whether it's visually, audio, text, whatever it is, and we weigh it up against this scale of like bronze to gold content that is also a Brandon Kane formula that he's concocted. But what you want to do is you want to look at winning formats that are online already, because the data already exists. You just have to like take time and actually identify it. A couple examples.
How would you do that?
Yeah, so a couple examples are, if you see a video that is, maybe it's like, say like 10 to 100 million views, right? And you go to their profile and you see that they're constantly doing the same thing over and over. What you can say is like, oh, this is actually a format that's of storytelling that somebody's doing. A good example of that is Victory Outdoor Services and SB Mowing.
Yep.
So Victory Outdoor Services,
yeah.
He found a formula to where he just straps a GoPro to his head, and all he does is point of view. And he just clips up his day and his interactions and his responses. He throws like text on it, maybe. But the overall winning formula for him was point of view. And so we say, how did this video start? What did he do? Was it a statement? Was it an interaction? Was it him physically working on something with his hands? What is it? And so you break down that video and you say, okay, I found a format. Now, why did this format work? How did he go through the first 2 seconds to like all the way to the finish of the video? Was there text on the screen? Was there music? Was there like captions? Was there, somebody's face? Was there like your hands doing something physically? Was it ASMR? Like really get detailed on why this video actually worked. SB Mowing's another great example. He'll do a thing to where he sets up his phone on a tripod and he'll go up to people and say like, hey, your yard looks like really terrible. I actually just want to give you a free makeover. Right. And he'll just like,
He doesn't say that though.
no, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. And so that's why you have to like watch the video and say like, okay, how did this video start? Are there two people in frame? Is he like knocking on a door to introduce someone? Is he looking at like a thing of terrible grass, like overgrown? Is he starting it off with, this person's about to, this person actually just got a fine in the mail or something like that because their grass is overgrown and we want to help them out. Victor the Good Boss is another one. I love Victor the Good Boss. He was a construction worker that is now taking and helping addicts that are on the street. And every single time you watch one of his videos, every single time, like, so you go to his profile and you see that there's a phone in his car pulling up to a person, asking them if they're okay and if he can help them.
Yep.
And so now what we do is we've actually analyzed like what a winning format is. And you go to his profile and you see like tens of hundreds of millions of views off these videos. And he's starting it off the same way. He's delivering it the same way with his communication. The visuals are there. And so what we can do is we can take that format and we can say, how do I apply this to what I want to tell and what I want to do in the series that I want to build? Another format is, and by the way, there's over 300 of these formats that are out there. So it's not like you cannot find a format that won't work for you. You just have to actually do the work to be able to understand the videos. And like,
is there a resource like that in Creators Den school of like?
So we actually just updated our tools section to where we have a Excel spread to where you can find these videos as well as the breakdown of how to actually analyze what is a winning format for you. There's bronze videos that get like, tens of thousands of views. There's like the silver format, which gets like anywhere from 1 to 10 million views, and then 10 million views up is like a gold format. And so we have a full index to where you can organize these videos that you find. You put the user's name and then you write your observational notes about this so that when you go to revisit the format, you can say, okay, what was about this format that we realized? And then you can actually break it down like that.
That's super helpful, because the first time you said that to me, I was like, what is a format and how the crap are there 300? And then I realized I started thinking about the videos that I view, and there are so many formats. There's so many ways to create content.
Yeah, you've come from it from a consumer perspective versus an auditor, right?
Yep.
Of storytelling. And so what we have to do is we have to take off the consumer shoes and we have to put on the auditor shoes and say like, okay, why did this video work? Is this something that I want to do? Because like another format is man on the street.
Yep.
To where you go up to people and you go up to them and you're asking them like hot button questions.
Yep.
Right. So that's another format, but that format might not be for you because, you got to ask so many people questions and you might not get a good response. And so you're like, this is just like, it's too much work. Yeah. Right. To get like that, you might get like 3 out of 10 that you're like, I like these 3. These 3 are going to perform well. Yeah. So like that might not be a format that works for you. But thank God there are like 299 more. Right. So like you have to find something that adapts to your life. Like a lot of contractors are winning with point of view. And like educational with title. on it. So like a title between anywhere from like 3 to 6 words as a headline for people to be able to see what the video is about, to make sure that they like click on it, and that there's clarity in the message. Like Taylor Ammons does his format very well. Taylor Ammons and I think Nick Hyder, those two guys are doing a format that's really well done. I think Taylor pulls in anywhere from 800,000 to 1 million per month of viewership.
Crazy.
And by the way, he's not just advertising to his prospects, he's also advertising to his competition and other people within his space, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to advertise to your competition. And most people would think that you wouldn't want to do that. You would want to just focus on the consumer. But remember, you are not in a competition game with your competitor. You are in a competition game with attention.
Yep.
One of the biggest examples that I can think of how you want to reframe your mind for this is, so I think it was either the president or vice president of Coca-Cola. He was on an interview, and the interview was asking with him with like, hey, like, you know, what does it take to like compete with like Pepsi? And he's like, well, we're not really competing with Pepsi. We're competing with water.
Yeah.
If we can get you to drink Coca-Cola more than you drink water, then we win. And that's the same. Yeah. Or, you know, they're not competing with Celsius. They're competing with like, because water is like you need water.
You do. It's in Celsius.
You need water. Yeah. So like, this is how I want contractors to start thinking about how they're actually showing up and competing. Is like, you're competing against like the attention span of everyone versus just like the attention span of your competition. And so don't be afraid to create videos that your competition watches.
Also, side note, I attracted a lot of, whenever I would put out like a job posting, because my brand was so strong and because we had this video content out, people like, we got the best candidates. Because it's a recognizable brand. It's kind of fun to be, you're like, oh, I'm going to be part of that. And it shows a level of expertise too. You're like, okay, they know what they're doing. It's a fun environment. They're very recognizable. So I'm probably going to have success at that organization. So this is the thing that's somewhat of a pet peeve with me. It's like the same people who say storytelling is stupid, video is stupid, I'm just going to, all that dumb. They downplay what we're talking about today. The same exact people are like, I can't find anybody to do any good work. I'm like, you need to, from the very beginning of this recording, you said you need to look at yourself. You need to understand your own identity. You need to understand who you are. And you need to probably be pretty critical of it too, so that you can do all these things that we're talking about. Tell the story, be able to have a strong brand. It's not easy, but it will be much easier to attract the best people. And it may be your competitors, sales reps, or production managers, or whoever. It may be, I mean, the stories that I've heard so many times where there's two great companies, one of them decides to do this thing with content, and they start telling stories, and they get creative, and they understand they have to push the envelope of how they talk to their ideal customer. They just win. And it's like, they're not really doing any other things differently. They're just being more humanized. They're saying, I mean, who wouldn't choose? If you have two companies that install similar roofs, similar pricing, but this one really puts the effort consistently to show who they are as people, humans will pick that human every single time. The sales rep or the brand. Yep.
It's your pre-qualifier, because the reality is before anybody tries to talk to you, they're going to see if like you're approachable, or if they can see themselves in you, or they can see themselves like next to you. That's the surefire way to be able to, when you create content, paint that visual for them.
Yep.
Chris Doe, I bring him up a lot because one of his key strategies, I think he has over 5 million across his platform of people that follow him, he hires from his community.
Yep.
And as a result, like, they're extremely sticky. When you hire from your community, those people are way more sticky than people that are chasing opportunities. And I was a
Yes.
firm believer that, similar to that, the other statement that I mentioned, the way you do the one thing is the way you do everything. I also believe that relationships create opportunity, not opportunity creates relationships. And so what you're able to do is you're able to create that relationship. And as a result, that person will find an opportunity in you because you created that it's called affinity, right, with somebody online. And so they feel like they know you more than you might know them, and
Yes.
they built a relationship with you.
Yes. And it doesn't take a lot of effort for that either, because people would come up to me and I have no idea who they are in my market to be like, I saw your dad joke videos. I saw them. It's very important because they immediately identify you. And the next thing they'd say is, when it's time for me to get a new roof, we're going to call you.
Yep. That also kind of goes into a little bit of what we believe between company brands and the scale of personal brand. So company brands are formed in like a triangle, right? You have, like, as far as scalability. And so company brands, you have like your visionary, your CEO at the top, your COO, maybe your CEO is like, underneath that. You have like your VPs or your presidents, your VPs, and then you have, operators down at and you have more operators than you do visionaries. And so your personal brand scales in a triangle format, right? This is where personal brand is different because it's not the same scalability as a triangle. Your personal brand scales as a circle. It will never be duplicatable because it's you. But the amount of network connections that you can have from this circle, like, you can have 150 people know you and you only know 5 people. And so when you're thinking about scalability, this is the reason why you have to lean into personal brand to be able to build your company, because you will be able to connect with more people than a company will, because you will be able to connect the lines with those stories that you tell within your personal brand. You won't be able to duplicate yourself, but you will be able to duplicate your reach.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to kind of like lean into a little bit about how that network connection looks like and why you were even able to have that success that you had, was because, like, you were able to have multiple network connections that connected to your personal brand. And as a result, your company was able to grow because of that.
Yep. Very true. Dude, we could talk about this stuff all day long. This is very exciting stuff. I think it's exciting because it's a challenge. I feel like a lot of us get really good at the sales or the production or all those things I said in the beginning of business ownership. And the reason this is fun for me is because I'm not good at it. And so I want a challenge to be, and it's cool that I'm not good at this one thing. I want to do the thing excellently so that I can build the other thing. And it's not just about ProLine. It's not about my personal brand necessarily, but like, I see this, if we can continue to preach this message and help just a few companies, like, they will see massive impact and they will be around for the long haul to be able to serve their customer base. I really appreciate you coming on today. I could keep talking all day long. Tell people what you do, because a lot of people know you. Like, I will go to these events and like, hey, John Cater, they'll first thing they'll say is, hey, I saw your new content. It's really good. Like, what happened? I was like, John Cater built our studio. It's awesome. And they're like, oh, I know John Cater. He's awesome. He's the best. Tell people what you do. We talked a little bit when you were here, but tell people what you do and tell people why they should contact you.
So we teach, train, and build both personal brands and organizations how to create content that will outlive our life and legacy. And so we have like 3 core products that we offer. Like we do fulfillment. So like we'll go to events or we'll go to organizations and we'll actually do the videos for them and help them strategize. We will we'll build studios because we believe in giving the tools that people need to be able to succeed if they want to do it by themselves. And so if people want to do podcasts or they want to do just like what you're doing here with just like, direct to camera type content connected to teleprompters, we come in and do full turnkey from A to Z, literally from planning, you see what the design looks like, to literally install and then train you on it. So we don't just like leave you with like a bunch of gear that you're like terrified to touch.
Let me just touch on that really quick because I have very recent personal experience. The actual thing that you guys do, that's those three things. Let's make sure people understand the value that you bring for that element. You have a 3D rendering, and when you sent me the 3D rendering, I have this tiny little space. It's freaking like, it's not even 8 feet wide. It's like almost 8 feet wide by like 14 or 16. I was like, this is going to be a challenge. When you sent me the rendering, and I have a landscape architect degree, I've done a lot of renderings. I was like, this is sweet. And I immediately sent it to a bunch of people. I sent it to my wife. I was like, this is what it's going to look like. I sent it to my marketing person, and they're like, this is awesome. So the rendering's huge. You can see visually roughly what you're going to get. That's a massive value. Then coming to build it is a lot of work. It's a huge amount of work. People think, I can just throw this together. It's a ton of work. And then the third thing is you do train. Like the setup that we have here, you joked about it. A dog could run it. It's so true. Like it's very easy to run. I want people to know this because I think that it's important to know that it's a lot of equipment. It's a lot of work, and it is training that's comprehensive so that anyone can do this. I just want people to know that because I don't think people really get it's like selling a roof. You just tear off a roof and throw on a new roof. No, it's more than that. And this is why I just want people to hear that from me as a recent customer and why it's valuable. Sorry, I just want to interject for that second thing you do.
No, you're good. And so as we're building the studios, we document the entire process. We give you like video SOP, and then we mess up a bunch of the stuff so that you can fix it, and we like talk you through that. And then the last thing that we do is we teach you. So we have the Creators Den, which is a platform that you can get coaching with, coaches that are doing this and people in production. Myself, and we give away all our strategies. We give away every single thing that we're doing and how we would do it. And then you can get lateral coaching from your peers. So you can connect with your peers. You can message people that are doing videos that, oh, hey, how did you do this one thing? Like, what's this format? Like, what was your mic that you use? Like, I'm having a real hard time trying to get people on board. You can like talk to the community that already is winning with stuff like that. And we make it, our goal is to be like approachable and excellent. Right. And so we want people that come in here to have that vulnerability because like, that's how you grow. That's where the gap is and where the gain happens. And so we do 2 coaching calls per month. One of them is a educational call, and then the other one is a boiler room call. And then we'll have guest calls. Like I just had the coach of Jay Shetty, Mel Robbins, and the co-founder of Netflix on a call that people were able to join and go deeper on like, how do you logistically do and add these frameworks to storytelling? And so we try to really push it at the highest level, but even if you're starting for the first time, you can come in and win. Right. And so there's not really a ceiling to what you can accomplish like within the Creators Den. And we I've been in this for 15 years, and most people I've been like where they're at. Right. And so I know like some of the struggles that they face and the next stage that they need to get to and where their mind needs to go to be able to become the person that they've never been before. And so we really facilitate that in the Creators Den. There's like a whole tools list that we talked about even on this podcast that you can dive in. There's like learn on your own time. But That's like the coaching platform, because our goal is to be able to, like, this next year, we will be responsible for thousands of creators that have, one, they've never created content, or they've created content and they've wanted to level up. We will be responsible for creators being born within this space and to be able to succeed and tell the stories that they want to. And last but not least, I believe in there's something that I want everybody to know, and it's the overflow effect. And the overflow effect is that giving, and this is part of the mentality of our community, right? It's like giving, sometimes when you can't give, will always come back to you and will always fill your cup as well. It may not be through that person, but it may be through a moment or something that, you know, you're going to experience, because I've had it in my life multiple times, to where I attribute most of my success in the fact that other people gave to me when they couldn't necessarily afford to give. And so what I will say is that the overflow effect is real, and that it applies to everything that you do, right? And so within this community, there's that. Within the relationships that we build, there's that. And so that's what we do. Like, that's what we believe in to the core. And we're gonna build creators that are gonna make a difference, that outlive our life and legacy.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, John, thanks for coming on. They can find Manager John everywhere. Where would you like for our viewers to find you?
So Instagram, Facebook, and we are diving in heavily into our YouTube, being really strategic with the videos that we place out. That if you want to just, like, maybe if you want to just like look up a piece of gear, we're doing like gear breakdowns as well as studio builds that we have getting released every week to bi-weekly. So you can expect videos from that are longer form, that are like 15, 20 minutes long. If you want to be able to kind of solve your problems or get into content and personal brand, you can consume that content on YouTube. But honestly, just reach out. If you're somebody that is trying to create content for the first time, you don't know where to start, and it's too intimidating, and there's so many things that you're factoring and you're getting in your own way about, reach out, because, you know, we'll help you even if you're not a part of the community. But we just want to see people tell stories, right? We want to see people become more of themselves, right, online, because I think there's a big gap in authenticity, and the more people that we can help fill that gap, we're going to allow for people to show up in better spaces online.
Yep.
With their customer, with their team, with the relationships that they have, with the, you know, when they're doing their team meetings, with their spouses, with their kids, right? And so we believe that content affects all of that. And, you know, you may have identified as many other things like father, husband, cousin, son, business owner. And one of the things you might not have identified with is creator. But you were always given that. You were always inherently given the title of creator because you were created, whatever you believe in. Like, you're here, right now. You were created. So inherently you're a creator. And so we're trying to help you tap into that.
Totally agree, man. You inspired me with that, and I think it's actually true. I think that we need to embrace that as people and understand that you just have to figure out which level of creator you are. And I really, again, I appreciate you coming on today. I think that we dropped some bombs today. We got some good stuff. Thanks for everybody watching, listening to the Big Roots podcast. Have a great day.
Right on. Hey, if you like this content, make sure that you subscribe for updates, and drop a comment in the comment section below if there's something that struck a chord, or if you're working through something. We answer all the comments in the comment section below. I'll personally be on the comments, responding directly to you if you have any questions as to how you can integrate this into your life and your business and your personal brand. So make sure that you drop a comment below and hit that subscribe button for the next episode. Because John's out here dropping bombs, looking crazy good on camera, hitting the gym. He's totally normal.
Totally normal.
Totally normal. Right. So
bye, everybody. I'm normal.